Now I want to just give you a very quick overview, and this is I apologize that it's such a caricature of a couple of 300 years of culinary history, which is very rich. But just to give you a sense of what the last 20 or 30 years have meant and why we're here tonight. A very quick look at the professional kitchen pre-Ferran. So next slide. 1750, a Frenchman writing about what it is that a cook should be doing in the kitchen as a chemist. And the job essentially is to harmonize, to get the essences out of foods and then to harmonize them, so that no particular element dominates the others. Everything is there in a kind of balance. And I think that basically holds true even today. That idea of balance and harmony and so on is sort of at the root of what classic French cooking is all about. Next slide. Carême and Escoffier are two kind of landmark figures in the development of French cooking. And basically what they did was start with that basic idea and then elaborate on it. And by the end of many, many elaborations, what you ended up with were guidebooks, guides culinaires, very, very thick, full of what amount to themes and variations. Relatively few themes, lots and lots of variations. And many of the themes have to do with meat extracts. That's really at the base, even of most vegetable preparations were finished with a sauce that came from meat. So it's a very highly developed and wonderful cuisine, but it occupies a fairly narrow part of the spectrum. Next slide. The French themselves began to feel a little restless about this in the late 60s, early 70s. And so a new nouvelle cuisine developed. And these are the 10 commandments that were kind of formulated not by the chefs themselves, who tended to be kind of mavericks, not about to make commandments for other people. These were put together by journalists who were trying to understand the movement in general. And you'll see various things that have to do, in fact, with eliminating brown and white sauces because they were so overused. But two important things: seek out what new techniques can bring you, and you shall be inventive. At that time, new techniques, new technologies included things like electrical blenders, which give you really, really fine purees, finer than what you could make before easily. And things like that, things that would not be that surprising to us today. Next slide. So we finally come to Ferran, and here he is. This is a meeting in Cannes, and he's written about this in detail and in really fascinating ways. The fact that he went to this meeting of French chefs and heard the man who's standing at the far left in this photograph, Jacques Maximin, say, to be creative means not to copy. And that, for whatever reasons, resonated with Ferran in a way that nothing else had, and that kind of changed his life, and that changed the course of culinary history, and that's why we're here tonight. Next slide. Just to give you an idea of what creativity meant in Ferran's hands as opposed to, say, the hands of the chefs of the Nouvelle Cuisine. Michel Bras is a kind of second-generation Nouvelle Cuisine chef, works in the Auvergne, greatly respected, all kinds of things you could say about him. And by the way, the molten chocolate cake that is going to be made in the course is his idea. So that's why it's there. Next slide. He is in a part of France, the southeast, which is very rich in native plants that are edible and that had not been used in classic French cooking. And so he thought that one of the things that he could do would be to use the local things in season to make dishes that were very special to his place. And so he invented something that he called the gargouilloux in the next slide, which is a miscellany of herbs, vegetables, sprouts, all kinds of things that he would gather or his people would gather in the course of the morning and then prepare over the course of the day. And each one was prepared separately because a different leaf is going to require a different kind of preparation. You want to do each one perfectly. So this dish, which was classical in a way, but revolutionary in a way, quickly became an icon. And people used it as a kind of reference point for the new way of looking at cooking. So, next slide. This is what Ferran did with the same idea. He tasted and experienced the gargouilloux, and as he's written, he thought about it for a few years. You know, what can I do with that basic idea, but really be creative with it? And what he did with it is this, which is, again, a mixture of, in this case, fruits as well as vegetables and an herb. But if you look at it, it's none of the components of the dish look like what they came from. So Michel Bras takes the bounty of nature, celebrates the bounty of nature, presents it to you as the bounty of nature in a beautiful way. Ferran starts with the bounty of nature and then moves on to the bounty of the imagination. What can we as human beings do with these wonderful natural materials to make them even more interesting, or if not more interesting, because it's not really comparison in that sense, what can we do with these things that has not been done before and that can give us something more from the experience of cooking and eating than we've gotten in the past? So it's a commitment to a different level of creativity, taking it as far as possible, opening the doors as wide as possible. Making food and cooking much more interesting, and making the science of food and cooking much more interesting in the same, at the same moment. Next slide. So Ferran has what's essentially a research and development laboratory that works on creativity in particular, without other distractions, and it's resulted in just an amazing body of work, a body of accomplishment. Next. Next slide, please. Now, a few examples of the kinds of things that this kind of openness of mind has made possible for other chefs. And a number of these people are, in fact, people who will be coming to teach in the course and to give public lectures, and so you'll be seeing them if you come back. Jose Andres is right here, and I put this up because this is one of the most beautiful dishes I've ever seen. It's about that big, and it's olive oil encapsulated in a material that's like sugar, but not like sugar. So it's actually more versatile. You can do things with it that you can't do with sugar. One of the things you can do with it is blow it the way you can blow sugar. And so it's a drop of olive oil inside this very fragile vessel with a piece of sea salt on top, a little bit of vinegar powder underneath. So it's sort of the essence of a vinaigrette without the salad. You just pop it in your mouth, it's there, and it's gone. And it's gorgeous. Next slide. Wiley Dufresne is coming to use meat glue, transglutaminase, to make things like noodles that are pure shrimp, no starch, no filler, no binder. It takes care of itself. And the best chicken nuggets you've ever had. Next slide. Juan Roca is coming, and he specializes, among other things, in distillation, which is a way of extracting aromas and separating them from the materials that they occur in, and then you can recombine them in all kinds of ways. This is a dish that made a huge impression on me. It's you can't really quite see, but it's an oyster embedded in a jelly. And you bite into it and you taste the oyster right away, and then slowly over the course of 15 or 20 seconds, you feel as though you're walking through the forest. And it's because he's taken a handful of forest soil, distilled it into just its aroma, and then infused that into the jelly. Next slide. So, The last 20 years have been really amazing, and this catalog raisonné that the Tate Modern Museum put out of Ferran's dishes is one testimony to that. It's also quite a testimony that the creator's portrait on the book was done by the creator of The Simpsons, which I think attests to a certain level of, how should we say, cultural significance. It's really a remarkable 20 years. And so that's kind of why we're here, and now time to listen to the real reason we're all here, which is to hear Ferran and Jose talk about their work. So thanks.